Well, hello there, and I do hope you're all well, and I do hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Now, I remember waking up Thursday morning, and I saw that horrendous smirk on pretty awful Patel as she's in Rwanda, selling this wonderful idea that it's a brilliant idea to spend huge wadges of our taxpayers' money to transport vulnerable refugees who risk their lives in dinghies in the Channel to fly, how's it, 5,000 miles away to Rwanda to be processed. And, well, Friday, I'm going to watch the football, so I didn't watch any news. So Saturday morning, I came across these hilarious interviews done by Tom Pursglove. He's a Home Office Minister and a Conservative MP, obviously. And let's say he's clearly drawn the short straw, because nobody who's in government would go anywhere near doing interviews about this, because you're going to make yourself look incredibly stupid. And, well, he did the rounds, and let's just say it was a bit, they were a train wreck of interview after train wreck of an interview. Absolutely hilarious. And this one starts off with the Home Office. Tom Pursglove is asked about Rwanda's history on LGBT rights after the UK government announced plans to send asylum seekers to the African nation. And let's just say he comes out with a belter of an excuse to try and get out of it answering this question.
Why Rwanda? I mean, how safe is that country? I mean, luckily, they haven't had a genocide in almost 30 years, which is great, but their record on human rights, particularly LGBT, is pretty sketchy. Human Rights Watch report published last year found evidence that the Rwandan authorities had detained over a dozen gay and transgender people ahead of a June 2021 conference. This has all taken place, presumably, whilst your department has been negotiating with Rwanda.
Oh, this is a belter of an answer to try and get out of answering this.
We have seen, I have to say, some appalling stereotypes thrown around in the last 24 hours since this announcement has been made.
Minister,
Rwanda has made enormous strides forward.
Minister, sorry.
Hang on a minute, let me answer the
Foreign
question.
The Foreign Office travel advice for heading to Rwanda reads this: homosexuality remains frowned upon by many. It's not illegal, but it can be frowned upon. LGBT individuals can experience discrimination and abuse, including from local authorities. That is the advice given to gay people in this country by the Foreign Office just round the corner from you.
What an idiot. And you can guarantee what he's going to say, no doubt it'll be, let me be clear. And the thing is, when people say, let me be clear and stuff like that, usually they're not going to be clear, are they?
The fact is that Rwanda has made huge strides forward over the last 3 decades. It has a female majority parliament, it has an anti-discrimination law that runs right through its constitution, and it's also just worth making the point that the UNHCR themselves place refugees in Rwanda as part of their schemes, which of course is providing sanctuary to them, and they have a rich and proud history, rather like we do in this country, of providing sanctuary to people who need it. But also, let me just make a further point, because I think this is crucial in all of this, that in terms of individuals being considered for relocation to Rwanda, that will be managed on a case-by-case basis, taking proper account of everybody's circumstances before any such transfer happens. That is the right and proper way of managing this responsibly, making sure, and the key criteria is this, that it is safe for them.
But hang on here a minute, Tom. You just says that Rwanda's made huge strides, so why wouldn't it be safe to just send a lot of them? Why are you doing it case by case basis? What's all that nonsense? It's talking out of it. Well, it didn't get any better, did it? It's like when press and evidence that most people crossing the Channel in boats to get to the UK were economic migrants. That's the new word they use now to frighten the racists and xenophobes. It was asked, what is the evidence based on that overwhelming majority of people crossing the Channel are economic migrants? Tom Pursglove can't give her that evidence. And Niall Paterson, at the end, it basically said there is no evidence, so the government should stop trying to say stuff like that without any evidence, because I think any rational person like myself and your good selves know that this government are talking out their arse when they're trying to accuse refugees of being economic migrants.
What is the evidence base for the assertion from the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary that the majority, the overwhelming majority, according to Priti Patel, of people arriving in small boats are economic migrants?
So what is very clear is that around 70% of the individuals who are arriving are single adult males. But my point is this, that nobody should be coming to our country via small boat, whether that be males, whether that be women, whether that be children. Everybody is leaving.
Well, I have a better way of doing that. If you don't want them to be put in the hands of rather cruel and horrendous human traffickers, why do you give them a safe passage where at the border they can be processed and do it that way? Less money, and it saves all that money going to be wasted on shipping them off to Rwanda to be processed.
What are fundamentally safe countries. There are perfectly functioning asylum systems in France and in other EU countries, and people should be using them when they're in those countries rather than making these perilously unsafe journeys. So we have to take steps to address this. That's precisely what we are doing, and I think that this is an important intervention that dramatically shifts the dynamic whilst also providing opportunities and sanctuary in Rwanda for individuals who wish to have that.
Sure, and I'm sorry.
And at that point, with all that drivel and nonsense, I personally thought the cars made more sense than what this clown had to say.
Sorry to labour the point, Minister, but again, the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary have both claimed that part of the rationale for this is that the majority of people arriving in small boats are economic migrants. I'm just again asking where the data is on that. We've asked the Home Office for it plenty of times. It's never been produced. Indeed, the Refugee Council suggests actually a significant majority of people who arrive in small boats are actually successful in their asylum claims, that they're not economic migrants at all.
The key principle here is that nobody should be getting in a small boat to come to the United Kingdom.
The key principle, and look at his face. That presenter's face is a picture. The key principle, and he's doing all these hands gestures. In other words, he's talking out of his arse, and he knows he is. That's what happens when you're trying to defend the indefensible. This is not designed to protect vulnerable people being forced into the dinghies by human traffickers. This is just to get their fans back on base, because now we have it's conclusive proof now that our Prime Minister is now a lawbreaker. He broke the law, and now this is all just trying to. This is a dead cat to distract from that. That's the reason why I will only be doing this video about this, because I'm not going to do any more, because it's just a distraction. But this is just priceless interviews with Tom Pursglove, as he just makes an absolute prize prune of himself.
Kingdom. We, quite rightly, have a rich and proud history in this country of providing sanctuary for thousands of people over the years, and you look at recent events with Ukraine and with Afghanistan where we've established bespoke schemes, and we'll continue to do that. But what we can't have and what we can't accept is people putting their lives in the hands of these evil criminal gangs. That's why we think it's important to...
Like I said, then give them safe legal passages so they can be processed at the border. Less money wasted, and less problems, because if people think that sending them to Rwanda is the answer, just you wait till when it comes to legal fees and legal challenges and then compensation claims. Where do you think all that money will be coming from? Yes, out of the public's purse.
Take these steps, and that's why we're pursuing this with Digger. We think this is an important intervention that we're making as part of the much wider package of reforms that we're introducing.
Yeah, I will note that, again, I have asked that question and the evidence base has not been brought forward, so perhaps the government can stop maintaining that the majority of people coming across the channel are economic migrants without giving us the detail in all of this. But whilst I
absolutely spot on. If there is no evidence to back up your claim that all these good proportion of these people are economic migrants, and you've no evidence to back, maybe you should stop saying it. Wow. But undeterred, our Tom Pursglove thinks he's doing a grand job, and to shore up the base even more, he takes the route of patriotism to the ultimate level, because when you need to get to the patriots, the racist xenophobes on side, there are two things you need in the background just to make sure that they're on your side, and it is, ta-da! Yes, the Union Jack, well, the Union flag, should I say, and God bless the Queen. Yes. Now, this is where he's on BBC Breakfast, and Charles Stayt asks Tom Pursglove, the Home Office Minister, basic questions about Rwanda that he can't answer. And on this one, the sound isn't the best, so forgive me on that one. I can't do much about that. But he basically asks him, what is the average life expectancy for people living in Rwanda? And of course, clowns like this have not thought of it, but brilliant question.
What about stuff like population, life expectancy, that kind of thing?
Well, it's clearly a country that is making enormous...
No, I mean, in terms of how many people live there and what's their life expectancy?
Well, the fact is that clearly in Africa, there are many countries in Africa, and this is one that is at the forefront.
Sorry, the question was, do you know the population of Rwanda? And do you know how long people live there, the life expectancy?
I'm afraid I've not got that figure to hand this morning.
But we're sending people there.
We are, absolutely.
What an idiot. And let's be honest, doesn't get any better, because in this last interview he gets hit with a zinger by Adil Ray, and I love Adil Ray, he's just top class, and he won't let him go on it because he clearly doesn't want to answer this, but he's forced to answer it, and he asks him basically, would you move your family to Rwanda? And I've forgotten her name now. Her name has just escaped me. You guys in the comment section will probably tell me. She says something that's had me in stitches at the end. Top class.
Amongst many.
If you had to, would you move your family to Rwanda? If you had to, could you go and live in Rwanda?
I don't think that is relevant.
Of course it's relevant. Why is it? Of course it's relevant.
Okay.
If it's not good enough for you, why is it good enough for a Syrian or Afghan refugee? It's got to be somewhere that we think is safe. These are human beings. These are people who come to us for help. You're saying, I think you wouldn't go, would you? You wouldn't go to Rwanda, would you?
Our position is very clear.
Would you go to Rwanda? Would you live in Rwanda?
Our position is very clear. That's the go-to word when their position isn't very clear whatsoever. And I almost forgot to mention, in the previous interview, I'm sure Charles Stayt asked about how much is this going to cost, because he said basically, Bodger said that we're not going to give a blank cheque, but how much will it cost? And he says, well, I don't know. So in other words, it basically is a blank cheque. And so it just went, it just goes from bad to worse. But anyway, it's great. But like I say, watch when the broadband magically failed to really work.
Would you live in Rwanda?
I am somebody who is a British citizen who lives in the United Kingdom.
But if you had to,
legally,
would you live in Rwanda?
That is not a direct comparison.
Of course it is. Why are you asking somebody else to go live in a country that you wouldn't live in yourself?
The situation with regard to Rwanda is that this is a country that has existing relationships with the UNHCR, who place refugees in that country.
But you wouldn't. Let's send thousands of people at cost of billions of pounds to a country that you, in charge of illegal migration in this country, wouldn't even go to yourself.
That's not the case. I would.
So you would go. You'd happily live there. Where would you live in Rwanda? Have you got a place? Have you got a place in mind? What's it like?
This is where the broadband, the connection, suddenly mysteriously starts to go down the toilet.
Rwanda.
Oh, we've lost his connection.
But I am happy to visit Rwanda. I am legally, the two things are not comparable. But what is not okay to allow evil criminal gangs to continue to exploit people and put their lives at risk.
Oh, well, we lost him. I think he said he was happy to visit Rwanda. I wasn't sure whether he said he was happy to live in Rwanda, but we don't know. But I think there was a
Now, as I say, I've forgotten her name. I just had a laugh at the end because quite clearly, the end of this video, it cuts her off in mid-flow, but it sounds like she's going to say something else.
hesitation, I thought.
Yeah. A problem with the connection.
Yes, a problem with the Conservative Party. Yes, they're absolutely abhorrent. Need to replace and Boris Johnson needs to be removed. Can totally agree with that young lady. I know she's saying connection, but I just thought rather funny. Problem with the Conservative Party needs to be replaced and removed and basically shoved in a rocket and sent to another planet. I hear Mars this time of year is beautiful. Oh, they'll probably make a pig's ear of that, won't they, there? But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the many train wrecks of Tom Pursglove, Home Office Minister, trying to defend the indefensible, because quite clearly he was drawing the short straw. This is right, we want you to go out there and defend this absolute bucket of sick. Right, I shall leave the video here until the next time. I shall bid you farewell and take care.